They didn't hug her when she signed the mortgage papers. They didn't throw her a celebration or even say thank you. But her mother Elise looked her in the eye and said, "It's yours, Aline. This apartment will belong to you. All we ask is that you cover the payments." That was it. No contract, no witnesses, just a promise wrapped in a mother's smile and a father's silent nod. Aline didn't hesitate, not for a second. She was 25, tired but hopeful. 2 jobs already. A third one if she had to. Because when your parents say, "We trust you," you believe them. And when they say, "We'll honor your effort," you believe that too. Aline took the keys, put them on a chain around her neck, and every time she clocked in for another shift, she told herself, "This is for my home, not theirs, mine." She never imagined they'd take that dream and give it away like it meant nothing. Monday to Friday, she worked in a gray office building. Mornings were emails, spreadsheets, copy machines that jammed every hour. Then came the evenings, slipping into a black apron, tying her hair up, and waiting tables until midnight. Saturdays, Sundays, they didn't exist anymore. Vacations laughed out of the question. Aline had traded rest for responsibility. Her back ached, her feet blistered. But every time she touched the necklace with the apartment key, she whispered to herself, "One day I'll have a key, not just to a door, but to my freedom." Every tip she pocketed, every lunch she skipped, every birthday she missed, it all went to the same place, the mortgage, the promise, the dream. People said she was obsessed, but they didn't understand what it was like to finally be one payment away from not needing anyone. Colette started showing up more often. First it was weekends, just to visit, she said. Then came Mondays, then Wednesdays. Then suddenly she was always there. "She's just going through a rough patch," their mother whispered. "Let her stay a little. She needs the space." Aline didn't ask questions, she thought. That's what sisters do, right? We help. But help started looking like empty dishes Aline didn't eat from, electricity bills that doubled, towels missing, her shampoo running out. Then came the comparisons. Soft, quiet, but sharp as razors. "Colette's been having such a hard time lately." "You've always been so strong, Aline. She just needs more help." At first, Aline took it as a compliment. Being strong felt noble. But over time, she realized being strong just meant she was expected to carry more and complain less. And the more she gave, the more they silently expected. No one asked how her back was doing. No one noticed when she worked 3 shifts in a row. But Colette, she got sympathy. She got softness. She got space. And Aline got silence. If you've ever been the dependable one in your family, the strong one, you know what this feels like. The city lights blurred through the smudged bus window. Aline leaned her head against the cold glass. 14 hours. No break, no hot meal. Her hands smelled like dish soap and printer ink. But tonight, she had one small victory. She bought groceries. Enough for pasta salad and a soft loaf of bread. She even picked up her favorite tea. A little comfort, a tiny reward. The apartment was just a few blocks away. Familiar steps, familiar door. She balanced the grocery bags, fumbled with her keys, and pushed it open. The lights were on, but something was off. No clinking dishes, no TV, no music, just silence. Heavy, unnatural silence. She turned toward the kitchen and froze. Her entire family was sitting at the table. Her parents, her sister Colette, and Antoine Colette's husband. No one was talking, no one smiled. Just 4 pairs of eyes, all looking at her, all waiting. The only sound was the rustle of her grocery bag as it slipped from her hand to the floor. Elise was the first to speak. "Aline, sit down," she said softly, her fingers nervously circling a teacup that wasn't hers. Aline stayed standing. Her heart was pounding, her palms wet. She looked at their faces. No smiles, no warmth. "What's going on?" she asked, voice tight, controlled. Pierre cleared his throat. "We've been talking, and we've made a decision." Colette looked down at her hands. Antoine didn't look at Aline at all. "A decision about what?" she pressed, each word heavier than the last. Elise finally spoke again, her voice too calm, too rehearsed. "We're giving the apartment to Colette and Antoine." Silence. Aline blinked. Once, twice. "I'm sorry, what?" Pierre cut in, firmer now. "They're starting a family. They need the space more than you do." The words didn't land all at once. They echoed, then crashed. Her ears were ringing. "Wait," Aline whispered, her knees beginning to buckle. "You're giving my apartment to them?" Elise reached out as if to console her. "Sweetheart, please understand. It's not personal, it's practical." Practical? That word hit harder than any slap. Years of labor called practical. Her name on the bills erased by convenience. And no one was looking at her. "No," Elaine said at once. Then again, louder. "No!" Her voice cracked. Her hands trembled. The room spun. "I paid for this apartment. I worked double shifts. I skipped sleep, skipped birthdays. For what?" Elise stood up. "Aline, no, don't. Aline me. You lied." Her scream echoed off the walls. "You watched me fall asleep in my uniform. You knew how hard I worked. And you still gave it to her?" Antoine shifted uncomfortably. Colette stared at the floor. "You picked her. You always pick her." Tears poured down Elaine's cheeks. She couldn't breathe, couldn't blink. I thought you were my family." Silence. No apology, no explanation. Just Elise's eyes suddenly cold. "You don't belong here anymore," her mother said. The words sliced through Elaine like glass. Not shouted, not angry, calm, certain, like it had already been decided, like she was already gone. Elaine didn't scream again. She didn't beg. She didn't stay to ask why. She walked to her room, slowly, silently. Her hands moved before her mind did. The old duffel bag under her bed, the one she used back in college, came out like instinct. She grabbed what she could. Her work shoes, 2 pairs of jeans, a faded hoodie, her toothbrush. And near the back of her closet, a dusty stuffed bear, the one her father gave her when she was 6. She didn't even remember keeping it. But now she clutched it like it could breathe. No one came in. No one offered help. No one asked her to stay. Elise stood by the hallway. Pierre leaned on the kitchen counter. Colette didn't speak, not even a glance. Aline zipped the bag shut. The sound felt louder than a scream. She walked past them all, dignified, not defeated, just done. No goodbye, no door slam, just the quiet sound of her footsteps, leaving behind everything except her self-worth. The city didn't care. It was raining, of course it was. That cold, needling kind of rain that stings your skin but doesn't soak you fast enough to justify crying. Aline walked, past the bakery she never had time to visit, past closed shops, dim street lamps, past people who never looked up. She walked until her socks were wet, until her shoulders hurt from the weight of the duffel, until her body gave up and her mind followed. She saw a bus stop bench, empty, flickering light above it. She sat down. Then folded forward, then collapsed knees to chest, hands over her face. And no one stopped. Not one person asked, "Are you okay?" A businessman walked past adjusting his umbrella. A couple laughed, oblivious. A teen stared at his phone. Aline didn't have energy left to cry. Just breathing was effort. She wasn't dramatic. She wasn't looking for pity. She just needed one person, one moment of kindness. But that night, the world didn't even blink. "Elaine," The voice came from somewhere behind the rain. Low, familiar, not sharp, just soft. "Elaine, is that you?" She looked up, eyes swollen, face pale, breath short. And there he was, Damien, from the office job, from a life that felt like it belonged to someone else now. His brows furrowed, his coat already soaked. "You look like you've been erased." No pity, no sarcasm, just truth, the kind that only someone who's been erased before would recognize. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Damien didn't push. He didn't ask the obvious questions. He just took off his jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. "Come on, let's get you somewhere dry." That was it. No grand rescue, no violins, just someone who saw her, really saw her. And for the first time in days, Aline let herself be helped. Not because she trusted, but because she had nothing left to lose. One act of grace, in a night full of ghosts. The room smelled like damp laundry and old carpet. The walls were yellowed. The ceiling creaked. One window, one bed, one light bulb that flickered when the rain hit hard. Damien had found it through a friend of a friend. "It's not much," he said, handing her the key. But to Elaine, it was shelter. And that was enough. She dropped her duffel by the door and sat on the bed. It sagged under her weight like it hadn't held anyone in years. There was no kitchen. Just a kettle and a cracked mug. She had crackers in her bag. Salted, dry, old, but they were food. She ate them slowly, one by one, as if they were currency. And then she laid down. No phone, no music, just the sound of her own breathing. The ceiling had a water stain shaped like a bird. She stared at it until the shape blurred. She didn't cry, not tonight. Because here, in this tiny, forgettable room, no one could hear her if she did. Morning came gray. The air smelled like rain and rust. Aline hadn't slept, not really, but she sat up anyway. Damien showed up with coffee. No questions, just coffee. He sat on the floor back against the wall, like he'd done this before. "I run an auto shop," he said. "Nothing fancy. Oil changes, brake pads, old engines with more rust than metal." Aline just looked at him. "I need help," he added. "It's messy, but it pays." She blinked. No one had ever offered her something without asking why she was down first. "I don't fix cars," she said. "I don't even know what a carburetor is." Damien smiled, but not condescending. "That's okay. You've got 2 hands and a brain. That's enough." She hesitated, not because she didn't want to work, but because she didn't want to be pitied. She was good at a lot of things, smiling when she wanted to scream, holding everything in, pretending she was fine. But fixing things, that felt foreign. Still, there was something in his voice. Not guilt, not sympathy, just belief. And it had been so long since anyone believed she could do more than survive. The first time she held a wrench, her hand slipped. The second time, she dropped it. The third time, she stripped the bolt and cried in the bathroom. Damien never laughed, never sighed. He just handed her a rag and said, "Try again." The shop smelled like gasoline and second chances. She learned the names slowly: alternator, torque wrench, serpentine belt. She started to understand how machines breathe. Her nails were never clean. Her back ached. But each time she tightened a bolt or diagnosed a rattle, something in her clicked too. Grease became a badge. Grit became a rhythm. Damien didn't hover, didn't rescue. He just showed up, every day, a quiet presence, a steady yes. He brought her gloves when her palms blistered, coffee when she looked like she hadn't slept. But never pity, never pressure. He let her fail. He let her figure it out. And that's how she started to trust him, not because he promised she'd be okay, but because he stayed, even when she wasn't. It happened on a Thursday. Aline had brought muffins to the shop, blueberry, her own recipe, crumbly, golden, still warm in the center. Damien took one bite and just stared at her. "You bake like magic," he said. She shrugged. "It's just something I used to do when I couldn't sleep." He took another bite. Then another. He looked like someone remembering joy for the first time in years. The next week, she brought lemon shortbread, then mini cherry pies. And then, one afternoon, as they sat on overturned crates in the garage, Damien looked at her, his eyes brighter than usual. "What if we opened a cafe?" he asked. The words came out fast, like he'd been holding them in for days. Aline blinked. "A cafe. Yeah, nothing huge, something small, cozy, real, your baked stuff, my coffee, a place that feels like comfort." He smiled. But underneath that smile was fear, the kind of fear that only comes with hope. Aline didn't answer right away, because no one had ever asked her to dream before, not like this. And dreaming, that was something she'd buried a long time ago. They didn't have much, just a shoebox of savings and a dream they were still afraid to say too loud. But they scraped together what they could. Damien sold his old motorcycle. Aline took on extra shifts at the diner. Every dollar went into something broken. A cracked countertop, a leaky faucet, a sign with faded letters from a bakery long forgotten. They painted walls with their bare hands, rolled white over peeling green, laughed when they spilled it on the floor, cursed when the ceiling dripped back. No contractors, no investors. Just two people rebuilding their lives with brushes, sweat, and takeout noodles at midnight. And when the place finally looked like something that could hold a little hope, they stood in the doorway and said it at the same time. Romantic. Not because it was about romance, but because it was about beauty, born from ruin. A love letter. Not to each other, not yet, but to the fire they had walked through, and the hands that kept building anyway, even after they'd been burned. Opening day came like a whisper, not a roar. No lines, no balloons, no crowd. Just a small chalkboard on the sidewalk that read, "Fresh pie, fresh start." Aline's hands shook as she tied her apron. Damien brewed coffee behind the counter. They looked at each other, no words, just breath held tight. Minutes passed. Then the doorbell jingled. A woman in her late 70s maybe walked in with a cane and a canvas tote. She smelled like lavender and rain. "I saw your sign," she said, squinting. "I wasn't sure if it was for food or for life." Aline smiled nervously. "Maybe both." The woman chuckled. "Then I'll have a slice of both, please." Aline served her a piece of warm apple pie, homemade crust, soft cinnamon, a touch of lemon zest, just like she used to make before everything fell apart. The woman took a bite, closed her eyes, and whispered, "Your pie tastes like healing." Aline froze, not because of the compliment, but because it was the first time in years someone used the word healing around her. Not hard work, not survival, healing. And in that moment, she felt it. The betrayal still lived in her bones, yes, but so did the belonging she had built with her own two hands. What's taken by force may disappear, but what we build with love, that stays. The call came just after close. Romantic was quiet. Tables wiped, lights dimmed, dishes stacked. Aline was counting receipts when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost let it go. But something in her chest tightened, that old instinct, the one that still whispered, "Mom." She answered. "Aline?" It was Elise. Her voice cracked like something brittle. Aline froze. "How did you get this number?" "Please don't hang up. I didn't know who else to call." Aline said nothing. "It's gone," Elise breathed. "The apartment. It's gone." Silence. "What do you mean, gone?" Aline's voice was sharp, cold, more steel than sympathy. "Antoine, he took out a loan, a big one, behind our backs. He used the apartment as collateral." A pause, a sob. "He gambled it away, Aline. We didn't know, and now it's gone." Aline closed her eyes. The image hit her like a punch. The apartment, the walls she painted, the windows she washed, the floor she paid for tile by tile. Gone. "So, where are you now?" she asked slowly. "Nowhere," Elise whispered. "We're staying in a friend's basement. Me, Pierre, Colette, Antoine, we're all—" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. "Homeless. We didn't know," Elise sobbed. "We didn't know what he was doing." Aline stayed silent. We thought he was trying to build something, a business, a future. We didn't know it was gambling." Still silence. "It was a mistake," Elise whispered. "A terrible one. We were wrong about everything, about you." Elaine's hand gripped the counter. Damien was nearby, drying mugs, pretending not to listen. But he heard every word, and he watched her fingers tremble. "You forgave us once," Elise said, voice cracking. Can you save us now?" Elaine closed her eyes. Forgive. Yes, she had. Quietly, privately, long before this phone call. But save them? After everything? After being told she didn't belong? After sleeping in a damp room with crackers for dinner? After building a life from ashes while they lived in the one she paid for? Her mouth was dry, her voice low. "I need time to think," she said. Elise exhaled hopeful. "Of course. Thank you. Thank you, Aline." But Aline didn't say goodbye. She just hung up and leaned against the counter, eyes closed, heart racing. Damien put down the cup. "What happened?" he asked gently. She turned to him, her voice barely a whisper. "They lost everything, and now they want me to save them." The next morning, sunlight poured into Romantique like forgiveness. Aline stood behind the counter holding her phone. One last time. She dialed the number. Elise picked up in half a ring. "Aline, sweetheart." Aline's voice was steady. "I've thought about what you asked." Silence on the other end. "I want you to know, I forgive you." Elise choked. "Thank you, baby. Thank you. But I can't lose myself again." Elise stopped breathing. "I spent years paying for a home where I was never welcome," Aline continued. "And when I lost everything, no one came looking, except one man who saw me as I was, not as I was useful." A long pause. "I love you, but I won't give up my peace. Not again." Elise's voice was a whisker. "So you're saying—" "No, I'm saying goodbye," Aline replied softly, with love, not anger. "But goodbye." She hung up. No slamming, no screaming, no tears, just stillness, like an old wound finally closing. Damien stepped in with 2 mugs of coffee. "Everything okay?" Aline looked up and smiled, the kind that doesn't need approval anymore. "Yeah," she said, "it finally is." At 6:45 a.m., the line starts forming. By 7, it wraps around the corner. Some bring their kids, others a book. Some just wait in silence because they know what's coming. A slice of hope. A taste of healing. Romantic isn't just a cafe anymore. It's a ritual, a refuge, a legend in flour and sugar. The cinnamon rolls sell out by 8, the almond tarts by 9. Locals have started calling her something behind her back, the queen of second chances. At first, she laughed at that. Then she cried. Now she wears it like a crown. Elaine moves through the cafe like a woman who knows who she is. She doesn't flinch when the bell rings, doesn't rush when things go wrong. Because she's built something no one can give or take, a life that feels like hers. The cafe was closed for cleaning. Chairs stacked, lights dimmed. Damien walked in holding something in his hand. Not a box, not flowers, just a set of keys. "What's that?" Aline asked, half smiling. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked over, handed them to her, the keys cool in her palm. It's a tiny shop. East end of town, brick walls, horrible lighting, but great bones. Aline blinked. Damien, let's build again, he said, his voice soft but certain. But this time, no pain attached, just joy, just us. She stared at him, at this man who once found her broken on a bench and never asked her to be anything but real. There was no kneeling, no ring, no speech from a movie, just two people, a history they survived, and a future they'd write together. Her fingers curled around the keys. Yes, she whispered, let's build again. The camera lingers on Aline standing at the counter of Romantique. The early sun hits her cheek, flour dusts her apron. She looks right into the lens and speaks not as a character in a story, but as someone who's lived through one. To the girl watching this story, if they ever made you feel replaceable, invisible, not enough, build anyway. Not for them, not to prove anything, but because you still exist. And that's reason enough. You don't owe them your ruin. You owe yourself your rebirth. Let them keep the empty promises. You keep your fire. She doesn't cry. She doesn't smile. She just breathes. Whole. Empowered. Fade to black. One last line on screen. This time, she saved herself. Sometimes, the deepest wounds come from the people who were supposed to protect us. But pain isn't the end of your story. It can be the beginning of your power. You don't owe anyone your breakdown just to keep a family together. Love without respect is manipulation. Sacrifice without acknowledgement is slow destruction. And if you've ever been made to feel invisible, replaceable, or not enough, let this be your reminder. You were never meant to shrink for someone else's comfort. Stand up. Build again. Not to prove them wrong, but to prove to yourself that your worth doesn't depend on who stayed or who left, because you're not broken. You're rebuilding. If this story hit a nerve, if you've ever been overlooked, used, or underestimated by the people you trusted the most, then this channel, Athena Stories, was made for you. We tell raw, powerful stories about heartbreak, healing, and the quiet kind of strength it takes to begin again. So hit that subscribe button, not just for us, but for you. Because with every story you hear, you start to rewrite your own. And trust me, your comeback deserves an audience.